Welcome to Moby Mondays.
Good evening. My name is Yvette Moyo, and I'm the CEO and founder of Moby, Marketing Opportunities in Business and Entertainment. For those of you who are having your first experience with Moby, I'm just going to give you a little background, and then I'll introduce our fantastic moderator for this evening. And I will go in the background, and I'll come back at the end. I'm very excited about tonight. Just that background I was mentioning to you, Moby is almost 30 years old. It's a brand and a conference series. And the brand has stood the test of time because one of our notable cultural practices was to make sure that when people came to our conferences, they looked for opportunities to do business with other people at the conference. And after about 5 years, we began to count the number of what we called Moby deals. And for both corporate executives and also for independent business people, we were able to count $200 million in deals between people who met each other for the first time at Moby. The trust level was incredible. The track record was fantastic. And we had a hiatus and a downturn, economic downturn, but the brand and the deals, people still called us to report that they were still doing business with people they first met at Moby, and to give us a pat on the back for creating the atmosphere where we could trust each other and grow each other. And today we're using a hashtag called Moby Accelerates, and I think it's perfect for what we've been able to do. That's the background of Moby, and tonight we have this fantastic conversation that I'm happy to introduce. And it is women in advertising. I started in the business doing door-to-door ad sales for a Black business publication. And that publication in 11 years grew to be competitive with Black Enterprise magazine. I left there as vice president and director of sales. And I called on clients in Madison Avenue. I had automobile clients and so many other experiences with many of the women that are on this series this week. And every day this week, we're going to feature another aspect of women in advertising. But tonight, this is a Moby Monday on a Tuesday. The title is Women in Advertising, Power Players Transforming Madison Avenue. And our wonderful panel, our leader tonight is a wonderful young woman that I'd like to introduce to you. Before I do, we have a tribute to Carol H. Williams. And Carol H. Williams is probably the living legend in advertising, the highest ranking African-American female, the most awarded. And we want to do every day during this series, we just are honoring some of the women that you should know. Carol H. Williams Advertising is the name of her company, but she's just the most highly awarded veteran ad industry executive that ever lived, that's still living today. Carol H. Williams received this year, after 30 plus years as a creative leader, she received the Veteran Vanguard Award from Advertising Age, and she is also the recipient of the 2020 Matrix Award. Carol H. Williams started Carol H. Williams Advertising Agency after accomplishing a lot of firsts in the industry. And those first included being the first to reach great throughout. I encourage you to go to her website, carolhwilliams.com, to learn more. But tonight, in the spirit of Carol H. Williams, we introduce this panel. Again, our moderator is Ms. Kai Devereaux Lawson, and she uses her lifetime passion for culture and nearly a decade of experience in advertising to tell honest stories that shed light on the need for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Her experience led her to launch the culturally focused platforms, Mixed Company Podcast, and her mykai.com. On these, she shares firsthand the perspective of a millennial mentor. Kai has been featured speaker for premier conferences featured in trade and publications, and has been honored by numerous organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. I think I'll share this anecdote with you all. I've officially reached my first decade in advertising as of 2021. And I could not imagine 10 years ago being on a panel with these legends and these amazing women that are here with you today, some that I've met along the years in my career, and some that I'm just meeting now, and just filling my circle with powerful players within advertising and along Madison Avenue is exciting. So I'm happy to be here. I'll jump right into the conversation. I'm going to ask any of you watching to please engage with us. I love when the conversation is not just panel facing, but if you have any thoughts, comments, or you want to tell somebody that their hair, their lipstick, their lives look good, make sure you throw that into the chat. I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. But let's kick off. The conversation is about power players transforming advertising. Power players transforming Madison Avenue. Black women, as you all know, have a legendary history in the advertising industry. From the creation of the Pillsbury Doughboy to secrets strong enough for a man but made for a woman, today women leaders are the most influential in advertising agencies. So what we're going to talk about today is how the disruption caused by the death of George Floyd last spring/summer, and also the turn of events that have created impact from the COVID-19 crisis. We're going to talk about how that shaped all of the progress and the impact, and quite frankly, the business and personal experiences of all of these women on this virtual stage with me this evening. And so I'll introduce by name each of my guests, each of my table conversation joiners today. And I'll have them tell you a little bit about themselves. I love to hear about people from their own words, because sometimes your bio seems a little stiff, and I know you all have exciting things that you'd like to share. So I'll start with McGee Williams-Osei, who is the co-CEO of Burrell Communications Group. McGee, welcome to the conversation. If you don't mind, what's your elevator pitch? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, yes, I'm McGee Williams-Osei and co-CEO of Burrell Communications Group. Actually joined Burrell in, 1986. Had always wanted to work in advertising. From college, that was my aspiration. And my parents wanted me to go to law school, but advertising was what I wanted to do. And I kind of won that argument, and really glad that I did. So advertising, I think, is so important to culture. And you often hear the terms that advertising is a reflection of culture and society. And I think the roles that we play have a lot to do with that, particularly during these times. So thank you, Kai, for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for winning that bet. We're glad to have you in the industry for sure. So I'm going to go across the top of my screen. Next up, I have Monique L. Nelson, who is the chair and CEO of UWG. Monique, I feel like I see you all the time, but also welcome to this virtual stage. We're basically dinner buddies at this point. How are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm awesome, and I'm so excited to be here with these ladies. I know them all, and they are all so awesome, and I'm just so happy to share this time with all of you. So, UWG is the longest standing multicultural marketing and advertising agency in the US. We celebrated 51 years in July. And our elevator pitch is, when I met Byron Lewis 14 years ago, he told me that this agency was about the soul of the brand meeting the soul of the consumer. And that continues to be how we look at the world, how we connect with our communities, and ultimately what fuels growth. So we are excited to be here. We're excited to be thriving after 51 years. And I'm honored to be able to carry a legacy and show that there is succession planning, that you can do it, and that Black businesses can absolutely live on in a way that allows them to thrive.
Absolutely. Even beyond Black History Month. I think that's important to share, right?
I do tell people we usually take Black History Month off.
There you go.
That's our respite.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining. I'm really excited to get to the conversation. Next on my screen, I see Ms. Shantae Bacon-Cias, the founder and CEO of 135 Agency. Shantae, welcome. Please
Thank you
give
so
us
much.
an elevator pitch. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, Kai. You know, I'm a big fan of yours. I love me some Kai Lawson. If you don't know, find out. I love all these women on this panel. But I am Shantae Bacon-Cias, proud Black woman, proud Jamaica Queens native, proud New Yorker, proud HBCU grad, and proud Black entrepreneur, agency owner. And my mom wanted me to go to law school as well. I won the battle. I wanted to go into the music business, and she was like, "That's not real. I want you to go to law school." And I was like, "It is real." So after an 8-year tenure at Def Jam Records, I started my own agency in 2005. My business partner is Saptosa Foster. Again, if you don't know, a quick Google search will unveil all her awesomeness. And she is the definition of, a sister, partner in crime. And for the past 16 years, we have been building this agency. And really what we intend to do with it is always have it as a breeding ground and a natural resource for amazing talent, Black and brown creative communications and strategic talent.
Lovely. Look at all of everybody winning these bets and going off in their careers. This is like intern. Yeah. This is intern 101 right now. Folks just need to know you can choose your own path. And speaking about choosing paths and choosing paths of positivity, I'd love to welcome my final guest to this table, to this virtual stage, Tanisha Jackson Warner, the CEO of Igami Group. Tanisha, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Would love to hear your elevator pitch.
Well, thank you so much, Kai, for having me. And once again, I know you guys keep hearing it. I love all of these women that are on the panel. And believe it or not, we are all friends. So this is Sister Supporting Sister Network. In terms of who I am, so Tanisha Jackson Warner, I wear many hats. I am the CEO of Igami Group. I'm a wife. I'm a dreamer. McGee, unlike you, I can't say that I even knew what advertising or the world was. I mean, I'm from Alabama, a Southern girl. So my first job out of college was actually with IBM Global Services, and I was there for about 5 years. And then transitioned out of that, hated corporate America and wanted to get close to culture. I landed an opportunity to work with Kimora and Russell Simmons. And after working in hip hop for about 4 to 5 years, I actually missed corporate. And I was really just searching, is there a connection point between hip hop and corporate and connecting the two? And aha, Igami Group was born. And so we are an integrated communications agency that connect brands to diverse culture through our 3 core pillars of community, culture, and cause. In terms of our elevator pitch of really what makes us different is we're really known for our purpose-inspired work. So think big campaigns that's driving meaningful impact through purpose in multicultural communities. And I am thrilled to be here for this conversation.
It's going to be a great one. And I'm hearing so much here. And so I already know that based on your elevator pitches and based on this conversation that we have coming up, you guys are going to share some great advice about sustainability in this business, making it through hard times, and also how to pivot. So I'm excited already. So let me go ahead and jump in by setting the scene. I don't know if anybody can remember back to January of 2020. It literally feels like its own decade ago.
Yes, Lord.
I'd like to see if we can take a step back and get a sense from each of you before the onset of COVID-19. back when we thought the only thing we had to worry about was a first impeachment. What were your business priorities at the time? What were you focused on, or perhaps what might you have been looking forward to in 2020 in regards to your leadership and your business? And let's start with Tanisha, since you were already speaking. I'd love to kick off with you.
Well, one of those sayings is you need to be very careful of what you put out in the world, right? And so I remember being so excited, cascading the vision to our Igami Group team. And our theme was really around reset, recalibrate, and rebuild. Little did I know I was putting
that was going to ripple.
Right.
Recalibrate, rebuild. So I was actually speaking about that from January. And it was really looking inward at our agency with the focus to really strengthen from the inside out. It wasn't until months later in the middle of the pandemic that I had a conversation with a dear friend and executive over at Delta Airlines. And she said, Tanisha, our industry has been hit so hard. We simply try to reset and calibrate. And I was like, Lord, did I ask for this?
On behalf of the world.
Now the entire world is resetting and recalibrate. So that was our theme going into the year. We had a pretty amazing first quarter. We landed a pretty large retail account, a large beauty account, a large financial sector account. And I sit on this board, the PR Council board, with other agency partners. And I can remember them saying, at the very beginning of the pandemic, whoa, we're bracing ourselves because we're starting to experience contract cancellations. And I was sitting on that call like, thank you, Jesus, for favor. Thank you for favor. Now, little did I know, I went back to the office, and maybe a week later, I started receiving those same contract cancellation and contract pause calls that my peers actually experienced. And that's when it really hit me, Kai, like, whoa, this is about to be a season of fighting and tenacity. So I'll pause there because you just asked.
We got more.
I need to hear from my other sisters, and then we can talk more about, the pivot and what happened after that. But that gives you a snapshot of what was going on in the walls of Igami the first 3 months of the year prior to the big hit.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a lot of hits. I'd like to transition to Monique. Monique, where were you early Q1 2020? What were your business priorities?
So funny enough, same type of situation as Tanisha. We had actually had a significant loss in the last quarter of 19. So our whole goal was epic. 2020's got to be epic for us, and it has to be steeped in our strategy. We were very focused on the fact that we wanted to deal with our clients from the inside out and the outside in, and really be thoughtful about getting a client that was really good for us. So funny enough, we started the year, strong vision, ready to go. We got to March, almost to this moment that we're in now, and we freaked out. We just didn't know what to do. So there was definitely this moment of paralysis that I say probably happened, because we weren't sure, right? There was just so much that was up in the air. No one had canceled. No one had, but really no one was saying anything, which is almost worse. Right? Like if I had at least had the call, right. I'm sure is the check coming? It's not coming. What's going on? So it was that moment of, we know this has to be an epic year for us. We deserve it. We've done the work. Mm-hmm. But what do we do now with this thing that you have no control over?
And control was I think control was a thing everyone lost in 2020. And I can imagine for all of the panelists, that's the same. I'm going to pivot slightly to the next question, because I think it still kind of leans into the setting the stage in the early parts of 2020. But McGee, I'd love to get a sense from you, recognizing that there were impacts and that potentially what you perhaps had planned or what you had lined up as projections for 2020 did not necessarily go according to plan this time last year, middle of March of last year. Did you find that you may have experienced a mindset shift as a result of everything happening? And did it extend past your business?
Sure.
Business changes? Was it also personal?
Yeah, it was definitely personal and professional. Let me say this, we started 2020 very optimistic, just like everybody else. We thought we were on a roll. 2019 was one of our best financial years ever. And so obviously we were, our objective was to maintain that, at least maintain that level going into 2020. So we were riding on a really high cloud there. We had a lot to accomplish to be able to meet 2019, and then it hit. What we fell back on, though, was we remembered back to 2008 when the recession hit back then. And we started just kind of calibrating and thinking about all of the things we did at that time to be able to survive, to survive that and come out of it, well on the other end. So around April, no client pulled out, but clients put business on hiatus. And we had to deal with that. My partner and I, at that time, we kind of committed that we weren't going to let anybody go. We were going to try to, keep people intact, keep families intact, if you will, keep salaries running. So people pulled back, but they didn't pull out. In the meantime, as we got a little further into that and social justice became a big conversation, business picked up. People were calling, and we were actually turning down business. We turned down a considerable amount of business for various reasons. Number one being, we would not take on any client that was in it for the moment and not in the movement. And that was just our yardstick, So on a personal level, I've always been very involved with community and giving back. And this was just, this was one of those moments when there was so much need, and it was simply, okay, what can I do? It was also, we were going into political season, and Burrell has a strong political practice. We were going into political season, which for us actually kicked off late March, early April.
Wow.
So that was a mission too. We knew that we had to get the right people in office. So that was my agenda at work and outside of work. Also outside of work was getting money, getting COVID protocol, masks, gloves to people, food to people. So my husband and I really stepped up our giving and our involvement, and just made that part of our daily existence. So from a professional standpoint, same, Burrell's always been giving back and a part of community and doing. So we stepped up our initiatives in that regard.
Amazing. And then that's a lot. There's so much that happened in that time period between January and April. So that's amazing to hear. Shantae, I'd love to get a sense from you. Like, what was your mindset shift like from Q1 of 2020 into the latter portions of Q2? Because, we started off and things were weird, and then things were kind of nerve-wracking because of the pandemic. But suddenly we kind of shifted into the social unrest and racial injustice at the forefront of entertainment, marketing, advertising, and media. And you're literally at the center of all of that. So how did your mindset shift during that time period?
So I always laugh when me and Saptos are talking. We feel like every single month in 2020 was a year. Like, that's the longest 30 days you ever lived in your life. So when you said, what were your goals in January 2020? Those went out the window so fast because, it became an entirely different scenario. Plus, on a personal level, I'll say this. So we were only about 40 days outside of the worst presidency we probably all lived through, right? And the world was just something that this nation specifically was something that we didn't recognize. In January of 2020, we all were thinking to ourselves, he has to go. And whatever I can do personally for the sake of everyone who comes after me, I need to make sure that, we get the right people in office. So we very much started off 2020 like whatever we need to do, because the bulk of our practice is definitely not political, but we do have a decent piece of business in the world of politics. So the goal was, let's see how this Democratic primary goes. At that time, week to week, we were right in the thick of it, not knowing who was going to be on the ticket. And right in the middle of it, I actually found out that I was pregnant. So that was a whole nother thing that was very unexpected. So I feel like, in the beginning, it was just Democratic primary and the pregnancy, which I found out about January 9th. And at that time, I was just thinking to myself, you start to see the world completely different when you're about to bring a life into it. Like, okay, now it's not just we really need to make sure the right person is in office. You're thinking about the kind of world that you're going to leave for this person. So once the pandemic hit, now you're thinking to yourself, I can't go to a doctor's visit. I can't have a person over to the house. We can't go to the store. You can't go to CVS or to the supermarket. So now you have a whole other issue going on. And then the death toll, which creeped from, 100 to 3,000 to 30,000 to 300,000, weekly. That's another thing that's constantly on your mind. So after a while, we're in a phase of I want to say survival, really, because, your business is not that it's not at the forefront. You're in business to make a profit and to be in business. We had made a commitment to not let people go as well, that we were going to nip and tuck and do whatever we had to do so that was not going to have to happen. Once, January and February feels so much like a blur. And then when March 13th came and the lockdown came, everything was really still and quiet for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then we started to get the calls of people saying that the budget was cut or the cancellations, like, we're going to put you on hiatus. And, I don't have another way to describe it, but to say we were oddly calm. Freaking out was not where we were. We were like, okay, we are going to remain incredibly still. Always prayerful, but on a whole nother level of awareness, because at that point, we didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic. You've got family members. Those are always your priority. Getting through that kind of time frame. The economy is rocked. The, investments that you have made and everything that you thought, whatever was up was now down. And the world was upside down. So we were really calm and just like, let's just see what happens. The news was there's PPP loans, there's this, there's that, blah, blah, blah. And then George Floyd happened. And that was another moment. It was like, right in the middle of all of that happened. And then it was a massive influx of new business, but not just an influx of new business. It was the same clients that we had been beating the door down for the last 10, 11, 12 years saying, we really need, it's okay to always be seeking, visibility, awareness, and press coverage from urban media, but you need to pay respect to the community. They are not just there to be your customer and your conduit to sell something. You need to pay respect to these people. They cannot raise their business on your hopes, dreams, wishes, ambitions, and, hopes and prayers. That's not how this works. And we've been saying that for so long. It's almost, it's second nature. We don't think about it. We actually mean it when we go in, and we have clients who always want something from Black media, and then they're like, well, they don't have the reach. Well, they don't have the reach because they don't have the resources, and they are rapidly becoming extinct because you spend your money with mainstream media outlets, but for the urban media outlets, there's a million talking points to keep you from spending money with them, and that is unacceptable because they are not here for your utilization, and then you're gone.
Right.
So every single one of those clients came back and was like, we want to be better. We want to meet the moment. We hear everything that you've been saying. And, you know, the cynical side of me feels like a lot of these clients and brands came to the table because they didn't want to get dragged, right? Mm-hmm. Black Twitter was super aware of who was doing what, and they were calling people out left and right. And they were like, who's what Black people at the top here? How much money are you spending here? What's behind that Black Lives Matter poster or that homepage on your site? So people were getting called out left and right. So there's a part of them that wanted to definitely make sure they avoided that humiliation. But there was also a lot of sincere people, executives, CEOs who were like, no, I like, this is a function of the CEO, which we had been saying for years. And that is, you know, obviously this is not a secret to anybody on this panel that my biggest issue with the diversity industry is that it takes, it becomes a protection for CEOs that don't want to prioritize diversity themselves. Right. If you made it a mandate and something that had consequences, and if people did not hire diverse or spend their money in diverse places, that it would impact their bonus or their job or their ability to move up in the company, then you would see it. But when it's one person as an internal advocate who barely gets on anyone's schedule and doesn't have any signing power, budget, a P&L that they run, you know, you're setting that person
up. There's not a lot they can do.
There's not a lot they can do. Like a company that really believes in diversity has a CEO that is championing it just as much as they are everything else. So
I wanna pivot, Shantae, because you're saying something that actually leans into my next question, which is for Monique. And Monique, I know you're here with us for a good time, not a long time. So I'll throw this one to you, because I think, as Shantae, you're mentioning that inclusion actually has to be at the helm of the CEO role, and the CEO actually has to embody what that means so that it can kind of permeate throughout the business. Monique, you did something special last year that really, I think for me, it was just kind of like, wow, like where are you finding this time and where are you finding this energy? But at the top of the pandemic, you made it your business to actually yourself call each of your employees individually to check on them, to actively see how they're doing. And much like Shantae is saying, like, that's what we want to see from our inclusion leaders, but it's even more powerful when it's from our CEOs. So where did you find that kind of, I don't know what energy drink you were drinking or what kind of prayers you were saying, but where did you find the space to be able to open your heart and your energy during that time when you were going through all of this on your own as well?
Well, I think that was it, right? Like I was in this, internal freak out, but I didn't need anybody else to feel that way. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted, to that point, I wanted Shantae's calm, and I wanted them to know that we got you. Right. We didn't want to lay anybody off. We didn't want to do, but I needed to know how people were doing. I needed to understand it. I needed to hear them. I needed more than just a check-in or an email. So yeah, I called everybody. Some people I talked to for an hour, some people I left a voicemail, and because they didn't think it was me. Of course they didn't know my phone number. So, there was a myriad of responses, but overall it helped me, I think, as much as it helped them. When I heard their voices, when I understood the stories, what was happening in their families, what was happening with their kids, how we were all kind of juggling. I've got a 7 and a 4-year-old. So we were all kind of like, what do we do? Mm-hmm. How do you manage all of this? As well as taking care of, your clients, right? Like there were still, we had clients at that point that were like, nope, we're with you. We're riding with you. We may be, moving some things around, but please don't worry, your checks are coming. And I needed to make sure that the team understood that we may not be growing this year, but you're going to be here.
Mhm.
And I want to know that that we care. Please take time, take space, and understand that this is epic in a way that I did not mean when I wrote that in my design for 2020, but that we would get through it. But it just came, and I continue. I now have, safe spaces every couple of weeks, just a drop in, just so people can express themselves. I can see them, I can talk to them, I can feel them, and make sure that, we continue to be involved and be connected. We're a community, and we're a community of people that are doing great work, and we're doing the work of the time. I'll just end and say, I have to say, for all of us, and I think we've all kind of expressed it in one way or the other, if we never knew our purpose, it was for now.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we never knew, if we ever thought that, I don't know, maybe this ain't it, we now know this is absolutely it. We are standing in our purpose in this moment. That was the silver lining of 2020. Didn't come in a great package. Talk to Kai about all the time. I was like, 2020, the year of clarity, right?
100%.
Never promised that we would like what we see, but it was very clear. And I think our agendas collectively were needed. They are needed. They will be needed. We are the future. And I love you all. I must go.
Thank you, Monique, for your time. Wanted to make sure I got that one in there for you. But I'm actually going to go ahead and switch to some of these questions that I see coming in from the viewers, which I think is really important. And honestly, we're here for the people. So if the community wants to know something, that's what we should answer. The first question I see here is about how you all as business leaders measured the commitments of your clients. And this is in regards to the references you all made to what happened after the pandemic hit, but right around the time that the media started to alert us to the stories of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and of course, George Floyd, which we all saw for those of us that did see on social media. So everybody wanted a black square. And McGee, you mentioned everybody's not going to get a black square if you're just here for that moment.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I'd love to get a sense from you, McGee, specifically.
Sure.
How did you measure your clients' commitments, those in it for the short run and those not, and those in it for the long run?
Sure. And when people called and said, we need an ad response, that was the first clue that that they weren't serious. If you needed an ad response, that was the first. Who made the call to us? If it wasn't from the C-suite, if it were a junior brand manager, an associate brand manager calling, to solicit help, that was a clue. Spend, when we would ask, well, what are you looking at spending? But the critical thing was, what is your intention? What is your purpose here? What is your intention? And if people couldn't say to us that, well, we're looking at, we need help from you to build an initiative to make a difference. We want to make a difference. If it were just about having conversations or putting the black square out there, you could certainly tell that based on who originated the call, what the spin was, if it was an initiative, long-term or short-term, and, just overall, generally the commitment. So those were the ways we were able to tell if people were really serious about this or if they were just trying to claim a seat so that they wouldn't be chastised through, through the whole that period.
Absolutely. Tanisha, did you have a similar experience with clients at that time, out with any outreach to try to see if they could become culturally conscious and not necessarily being there for the long haul?
Absolutely. And the one thing I just want to say, with all of us on this call, I know you all probably heard that none of the CEOs on this call released a single employee. And it looks like we all can say in the midst of a pandemic, we not only survived, but we all thrived. So the surprise of doubling the size of our team, ushering in 13 new logos, McGee, we experienced exactly what you did as well. It got to a point we had to start saying no.
No.
So some of the things that we looked at with the calls that came in addition to things that McGee mentioned, we also wanted to kind of see what was your proven track record prior to the global social awakening. Did you have a track record in this space? And for us, we had long-term partners like a Procter & Gamble that we were probably in the 13th year of working with them on My Black is Beautiful. McGee, I'm looking at you smiling because we shared.
Yeah, we're probably around 16 or 17 years on My Black is Beautiful and 38 years with Procter.
Yeah, so it was wonderful to have clients where we wanted to see, show us your receipts. And we want to make sure that you have a proven track record in your minority business enterprise spend, in your programs internally, in your campaigns prior to this moment. Now, this was not that a total no if we really felt someone came to the table with a genuine desire of where do I start. But you can really, this was about being very strategic and having a scorecard to assess who is worthy of our time, that they really will be our partners in purpose in the movement. And if it took more than 3 meetings for me to convince you of the why, or, you know, you still need support selling it in, we basically said a lot, you're not going to be the right fit for us. And definitely you're not the right fit in this season because there's too many players that are genuinely up for this moment in time to change history. So those were some of the things we looked at. Always check for the receipts.
Always check. I love receipts. I love receipts all year round, but especially when it comes to proving yourself. Shantae, I'm going to throw this next question that's in the chat at you because you actually alluded to the transition in your conversations with your clients from let's say pre-2020 to post Q2 2020, when all of a sudden everybody wants to be culturally inclusive. But a year ago, no one could find the budget to activate within Black markets and multicultural markets at the same way they do in a mainstream market. So this question is, how do you benchmark your success when so much of the general market undervalues our work as a community? Do you have thoughts on that?
I do. And I actually saw that question. That one jumped out at me because
I knew it was for you.
When you are in the trenches and you are trying to not convince, but just enlighten a client to understand that there are other valuable segments of our community that are not famous, that, you know, there's a big respect that mainstream media has and mainstream and corporations have for A-list celebrities, right? They all want to be in bed with a Jay-Z, a Beyonce, LeBron James, Kobe, all of that. When you don't have a big A-list celebrity that's ushering it in or forcing it in front of them for them to spend, you know, they find that there's you know, not a disregard, but just like a desire to not know. Like they don't, there's not an interest in, you know, who are these media outlets that you get started on. It's kind of like, you know, the starter media, and then we move on to everyone else. And so I think that the way that we value it for ourselves is if we have a client that we've been working with for years, and I'm not, you know, calling out any specific client here because I feel like every single one of them have made progress. But there's some people who they had their automatic stump speech whenever we would say we need to be investing in Black media. And they had, I mean, the everything from, oh, no, it's church and state, we can't get involved in that. Oh, we don't have anything to do with that. Oh, this is the PR department, this and that. And, you know, slowly over time, we have let them know that you do have the power to inform the people who are making that decision that there is a crop of media outlets that they don't know, they're not interested in knowing about, but they need to know. And especially, I cannot overstate the fact that Black Twitter and the way that they keep folks on their toes they have been an ally in the conversations, because for people who were stubborn and really they were sticking to the talking points and really were hard to budge, when they start to see the accountability happening, for a minute, I just started calling it accountability season, because every day there was someone else sharing their story. And, there was, that helped them to become, a little bit more aware of what they didn't know. And, the way that I value it is they have made progress. There are media outlets that don't even know that they're getting consistent, advertising from a client, because Saptos and I advocated for years and kept putting them in front saying, listen, you need to be right here. This media outlet is they helped you to make this show work, or to launch this product, or to get a conversation going about your priorities. You need to be investing in them. And there's every client has made progress in that area. And it was non-existent 5-10 years ago. It was just, something that they felt like wasn't necessary. And now they're really starting to understand what we're saying, and it's permeating other departments, the marketing departments, the advertising departments that may not have as much to do with communications are asking, where should we be? Who should we be investing in? That's really important, because we're starting to make them understand that it's not okay for you to not be here. And it's not okay for you to constantly demand that Black media show up for you, while having absolutely no respect for what they need in order to survive. So that's how I that's my benchmark. Like, are we making progress? Are they doing the same things that they were doing 10 years ago? And they aren't.
100%. I'm so glad you mentioned investment. Because McGee, I'd love to ask you a question about recent investments that Burrell has actually made. So after a year that many people have associated with loss or lack, you all recently announced as a part of your 50-year anniversary celebration that you're launching a 50 Acts of Kindness initiative.
Yes.
And so, that kind of struck me, because that's a big deal to give, right? To give after coming off of a year that for many people felt like it was a loss for business, a loss for time, a loss for lifestyle. So I want to know what motivated you all to come to the decision to center your 50th anniversary celebration around giving, when so many other companies have scaled back their philanthropic efforts to make up for 2020's financial crisis.
Well, Kai, we were going to celebrate our 50th. We had planned on doing something way before. 2 years ago, we started talking about our 50th anniversary. Then COVID hit, and we couldn't have a big celebration of any kind. And given what was going around, happening to the families and friends and neighbors, it just seemed to make sense that instead of something that's frivolous and going to last just a couple of hours, whether it's on Zoom or whether it had been in person, why don't we take the resources that we were going to spend on this and just give it back to the community? And this idea really did come from our employees. They brought it to us. They said, you know what, why don't we do something that's giving back? Why don't we, as a part of our legacy, which has been a part of our DNA, giving back, doing things for the community, let's take this opportunity to do that. So it really came from the heart of our employees, and it was just within keeping with our DNA. It just made all the sense in the world to give back to those communities that have stood by us for 50 years. Supported us, taken pride in us. They look at our work and they feel pride. They see themselves. Tom Burrell started this whole thing because, on the premise that Black people are not dark-skinned white people. And people for years and years have just appreciated what Burrell has done to uplift the Black community and spread a positive light on it. So what better way for us to celebrate than to continue in that tradition of giving?
And it's a beautiful thing to see, and definitely setting a great example for all agencies. I'm going to go back to the chat because there's some really fun questions in here. Definitely something that I saw top of the newsreel today. But the streets are talking, and Shaquille O'Neal has now co-founded a new agency focused on diversity called Majority. It looks like folks want to know, with Shaq entering the advertising game, do you all have any thoughts on that, and how this could impact the industry in either a positive or another impactful way?
Well, I'll start. I wish them luck. Having been around this corner a time or two, it's not easy to start an agency. What I will say, over the last 10 years, we've seen the demise of many Black agencies. We're just down to a handful now. And so I'm happy to see anybody come into the industry. I think, maybe it will just make us stronger as a network of Black agencies. Yeah. I don't feel threatened. I welcome them into the arena. It can only make us stronger.
Definitely. So speaking about making stronger and being stronger, Tanisha, when Googling you and trying to find out a little bit more about you, I got really excited because you're all about purpose. And even as you talked about your roots in hip hop and trying to figure out a way to marry hip hop with the corporate space, which seems a lot, which is a lot to do. It seems like you have a focus on purpose. And so recognizing that you are a woman of purpose, namely because of your book, Profit with Purpose, A Marketer's Guide to Deliver Purpose-Driven Campaigns to Multicultural Audiences, what kind of advice do you have for people who maybe may not have, or marketers who may not necessarily have found their purpose in 2020 after all of the social injustice and bouts with the pandemic and of course the recession? What do you say to folks who are still struggling to find their purpose after experiencing a year like 2020?
Well, here's the one thing that for sure, when speaking to entrepreneurs and or professionals, none of us expected 2020 to look like what it did. And there were a lot of deferred dreams. So in speaking to dreamers across the nation, the one thing that I would say first and foremost is, if you deferred a dream in 2020, I need you to know that a deferred dream is not a denial. You can't even look at it or process it like a no. There's so many plans that I thought I would be doing. My second book, The Big Stretch, launched at the end of 2019. I thought I would be on a book tour. All of that was gone. So number one, let yourself know deferred dream is not a denial. The second thing I would say is, I want you to believe in the midst of it all that time is working in your favor. I feel that Shantae, McGee, we're all examples that time worked in our favor in 2020 when it looked like everything was, in disarray. I would also encourage you, dream again. When you're trying to survive, you're not necessarily pausing and saying, what's my purpose? How can I merge my purpose and profession? What's that big idea that God has always had in your heart? Give yourself the space and time to dream again. And then lastly, once you have that dream, be willing to move into a design phase and map out a plan. But if we didn't learn anything in 2020, I want you to make sure you write your plans in pencil. I got pencils all over my desk right now. I don't do a lot of writing and eat. You have to turn over and erase and find a new path. You can do that. And Kai, if the readers or listeners that are listening, if you want to go to thebigstretchbook.com, I have tons of templates and resources that are available for free, and you can download and really help you get back on track with launching dreams. There's templates all around discovering your purpose and mapping your personal purpose with profession. So if you go and do a download, all of those resources are available at no cost, for free. And if anything, I would be thrilled for Moby and Kai to hear that many of you committed.
Absolutely.
To
Absolutely. And if 2020 taught us anything else, it's that we love free resources when we can get them. So thank you for that. So I'm glad we're talking a little bit about money, because I'd like to get in a few really advertising questions in here as well, that are catching my eye in the chat. And the first one is, and Shantae, I'll toss this to you, because I'd actually love to know this about you. If budget wasn't an issue, how would you invest your clients' money to generate the greatest return?
If budget wasn't an issue for my clients, the main place or destination where I would tell them to invest their money is in Black-owned businesses. I see that it is a fad I'm hoping lasts a long time, with a lot of people creating a fund. Every week there's a new fund to scale minority-owned businesses. Now, we've been seeing this trend for a good 2.5, 3 years now, but we haven't heard about a single business that scaled from all of these funds that are popping up. But we're moving in the right direction. If the money's becoming available and everyone wants to be in the business of scaling minority-owned businesses, I'm here for it. I'd like to help. And I think that if we, even with a new fund popping up every 5 seconds, we still have a ton of clients and brands that have not made one single dollar investment in businesses owned by Black and brown folks. And so, you know, there's a huge amount of I'm going to speak specifically on Black woman-owned businesses that never get financing or angel investors or VC money, and those women deserve a chance to scale those businesses, especially when the infrastructure and the framework has been well thought out and they have a plan. And that's where I think every client should walk proudly knowing that they had something to do with scaling a Black woman-owned business.
That's amazing. I'd love to get thoughts from Tanisha and McGee as well. Tanisha, if money wasn't an option, if money wasn't a thing, if money was just at your feet whenever you need it, however much you needed it, how would you invest that money to increase the success of your client?
I would first counsel the client in doing an overall assessment, but definitely holding amount of funds that can go to work with their D&I efforts from the inside out. So it's very important before they can come and start thinking externally with advertising, making sure that they have dollars to build a diverse team from the inside out, to build C-suite executives that are people of color, programming to develop their managerial talent, whether it's from the start to the finish, pipelining with diverse talent of color, whether it's at a PWI and or HBCU. So making sure they have the dollars so that the diversity really can start from within is important, even before you start thinking externally. Shantae, I love what you said about you want to target our dollars, but are you really serious? So that would be a big focus area. After that, I think where Shantae hit, it's very important also looking at their supplier diversity spend goals. I think we all can say we're spending significant amount of monies with other minority business enterprises. So I usually show my spending receipts to our clients and say, if I'm a small business and I'm spending this much in our minority communities, you can't tell me that you can't also earmark dollars that are tied to the results of the various departments to spending with minority-owned businesses. And then once we get into the external facing campaigns, of course, it's the right talent. It's the, right media outlets. It's the right celebrities. It's the right influencers with the right emerging voices. And because we are really grounded in purpose, we really want to bring the right community partners to the table that could be integrated in our campaigns and benefit accordingly.
Wonderful. And before I move on to you, McGee, to answer this question, Tanisha, it looks like folks want to know the resource website again, just so they can make sure they can visit it.
It's thebigstretchbook.com. So when you all download those templates, we want to hear from you on, if you have any ahas about your professional, and I said professional, so that's purpose and profession.
Yes.
Share with us your ahas. I feel like this year has taught us we need meaning in our professional lives. So it's thebigstretchbook.com.
Wonderful. And McGee, I will toss this over to you and let you take us home.
Okay.
If budget wasn't an issue, if I
Sure.
don't know, you had a money tree in your backyard, in the middle of the street, wherever you go in the park, how would you invest your clients' money to generate the greatest return for their business?
Sure. I would also start with a strong D&I program initiative internally to be sure that Black and Brown and all underserved markets are represented on the client staff and in the C-suite. Critically important. I think the investment in supplier diversity is also quite necessary. Outside of that, it's very important, if money were not an issue, there would also be two layers of external outreach, if you would. I would plan for two. One is transactional, because we have to move product. But in addition to transactional, there would also be a cause-driven initiative, or giving back, or community outreach types of initiatives in some way, shape, or form. Again, consumers gravitate to companies that don't just take the money, they want something back in return. So a transactional initiative, as well as something that gives back to the community. Because after all, we want consumers to feel good about brands. And when brands can help people feel good about themselves, results happen.
Amazing. Thank you.
If it's okay,
please do.
For every potential client and brand that is listening to this call, don't okay, I'm really going to try to.
This is live. Yes.
Okay.
Workshop
it. You said if money grew on trees, and what I don't want anyone to start thinking is, well, if money grew on trees, I can make the proper investments into my DEI program. You can do that today. You don't need a money tree. You don't need unlimited funds, because you already invest in the people that you want to invest in and the programs you want to invest in at the top. The money tree conversation is philosophical. It is not meant to be used as a new excuse for why you can't make your DEI program everything that it should be, and set real benchmarks and goals, and do things other than booking panels at conferences. So that's really it.
You're triggering me, Shantae. You're taking me back to a time of this day I don't want to talk about before 5. Let's just talk about after 5. Just after 5, please. Yes. No, that's 100%. Don't twist my words against me, or the community words against me.
The money tree is not necessary to do that. You can make those investments today.
And they make huge impacts. That's absolutely true. So I like to end all of my conversations with people being able to celebrate themselves. Oh, I know I'm echoing. But I like people to be able to celebrate themselves, talk about something that has them excited, or quite frankly, tell us where we need to go spend money with you to keep you all moving forward in your success. So, Shantae, I'll start with you. What's been the one or two game-changing things that have happened to you personally that you'd like us to celebrate on your behalf? Is there anything we should be keeping an eye out that's going on with you?
Yes, absolutely. So being a new mom, he just turned 6 months on Friday. He's the love of my life and my booski. I'm celebrating that personally, and as well as everyone in my life. But that's worth a shout out. Also, Saptosa and I launched a podcast to be a resource for all of the conversations and the questions that we get whenever we have speaking engagements, or people who are on our staff, used to be on our staff, from clients. And it specifically speaks to Black women in business and entrepreneurship. It's called Step Into My Office. us. We have a good time. And we have a lot of new episodes coming up, but you can download it wherever you get your podcasts. It's produced by a Black woman-owned firm called Verse 2 Media. It's Danya Floyd, who was the showrunner for Essence Live. And, you know, her and I, by the way, were Hampton University graduates. And it's just, you know, we want all the, we listen to it. We really do take into account every single question, piece of advice, a problem that's shared with us, and have the conversation, because there's not a lot of places to go. Like, for example, one of our episodes is, why do you keep hearing from investors that they don't put money into service-based businesses, right? Like, how are you supposed to scale your business? And there's a whole conversation. We have an expert who comes on, and she advises from an insider perspective of why you keep hearing that and ways to get around it. So that is another thing that we're celebrating.
Amazing. So definitely, y'all check out the podcast. If you catch any glimpses of Shantae's son, Pharaoh, he is absolutely gorgeous. One of my favorite things to see on Instagram. And yes, I'm celebrating with you. McGee, in addition to your 50-year anniversary with Burrell, congratulations to you all, by the way. Obviously impacted my life and career by just existing. Yes. What else can we celebrate in your world? And what else can we do to support?
Sure. Well, our celebration is a year-long celebration. So you'll hear more about it as we partner with more community organizations and do really kind things for the community. So that's a year-long celebration. From an agency standpoint, we are venturing into some new sectors. We're venturing into public affairs, again, kind of in line with our political practice, which is growing. We're really pleased too, and we're celebrating a couple of our key creatives, particularly our chief creative officer and one of our creative officers, for they're going out in the community, spreading the word about advertising, actually working with young people to get them interested in advertising, the creative end of advertising. They're actually coaching and training them. So, you know, we are trying to keep the pipeline open and keep people coming to the industry. So those are things we're celebrating from a company standpoint. From a personal standpoint, several months ago now, when people were, you know, feeling the pressure of the times, everybody was saying, well, what can we do? What can we do? So I have co-founded with a couple of other Black women an organization. We're getting it off the ground called Multi-Generational Black Women for Change. And this is strictly for people that just want to do something. You know, it's, you know, people were just saying, I just feel like I need to do something. So we were coming up with very small things that people could do to make them feel involved and that they were making a difference. So we're hoping to get that launched and off the ground this year.
I'm so happy to hear and can't wait to hear more about it. Tanisha, let us know, what else can we celebrate that's going on with you? It sounds like you had a new book come out at the end of 2019 that we should be taking a look at, but what else can we support? How else can we celebrate you? Tanisha, you are on mute. I don't know if you, there you go.
So I'll start professional and purpose. They're kind of intertwined for me. At our core, we activate purpose to drive impact in the world. So if you're a brand, igamigroup.com, like, we are basically striving every day as a team to make the world a better place for people of color. And we're fortunate enough to do that through our campaigns, our work, whether you're CPG, financial, healthcare, all of the programs kind of ladder back to making the world a better place for people of color. And then if you are an individual and you're looking to activate your individual purpose, all of the work that I do under the Dream Project, and with this latest book, The Big Stretch, that's really designed to support you as an individual, whether you are a professional or entrepreneur, to map your purpose out and activate it in the world. So those two things are the pillars of where I would push you, igamigroup.com, to join us in our mission to make the world a better place for people of color, or for yourself personally, committing to doing the big stretch, which is a 90-day action plan that is all for you to activate your purpose.
Kai, you're on mute.
Of course I am, because this is technology in the new year. I was saying I'm not the kind of moderator that doesn't celebrate herself. So you guys can also support all of the things that I'm doing by following my podcast, Mixed Company Podcast, on all the social media channels at Ask Mixed Company. We just released a really, really, really dope episode this evening. So check that out and follow my blog. And you can follow me as well at My Life of Kai. I'm everywhere. I write about all the things I see, all the things I experience. And if you just like traveling and working and just being great in your life, you definitely have a lot in common with me. And I'd love to share it with you. So thank you all, McGee, Tanisha, Shantae. I know Monique's gone, but Monique as well. Thank you for joining me in conversation. Moby, thank you for this opportunity. And Yvette, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Kai's podcast is amazing. If you have not had a chance, please check it out. I've been on twice. I love it. We have a good time.
It is always a good time.
And I just love the love. I am. Yeah. So this has been great. Thank you so much, Kai. Thank you. Congratulations for your 10th anniversary.
It's been such a long time for me. I don't know.
And on your podcast, we've been talking about one of the things I want to say, having been in the business for over 40 years myself, Black ad agencies create the opportunities that nobody else creates. Whatever you love on TV, your favorite commercial, your favorite movie, the movies can't even get on without advertising. And these people are advocates for everything we love about our Blackness. And they're able to create a business case to their clients, which is not easy. And we've heard today, the implication is that some of those clients, even that have been on, have not been woke until now. And now they're realizing and listening with a new ear. So what McGee said is that many of the Black ad agencies, at one time there were many, there were 10, 20 viable agencies all over the country, and they're just gone. They're gone because of the lack of commitment and the lack of willingness to return an ROI to Black people. And so we have to act like our dollars are like the vote. Don't spend if you don't see the brands you love represented by some of these Black-owned companies. You have choice. And so I'm saying that to the people that are watching, and I'm saying to you, I bow down to you guys for finding the way to find the money to the things that are important. So I'm saying that to the people that are watching. I'm saying to you, I bow down to you guys for finding the way to find the money to the things that are important. So
you switched over already?
All right. Oh.
So I'm going to sign off.
Thank you, Yvette. While we are having a few technical difficulties, let me just take a moment to announce tomorrow's show. Continuing on with our theme, Women in Advertising, we'll be speaking with creatives about how the storytelling is changing. In our connected digital age, ads have to level up to rise above the noise. Our panelists will take us through their unique approaches to storytelling that have led to campaigns that have captured audiences across the nation. These dynamic women will also share how they've crafted their story along the way, rising up as leaders and creating game-changing impact within the ad industry. Join us tomorrow, March 3rd, for Candace D. Queen, Creator-in-Chief of Tabernacle, who will lead the discussion with Deidre Rahman, who is the VP of Brand Strategy at Huge Incorporated, along with Valerie Graves, author, and creative consultant.
Thank you, Yvonne. And to our audience, I will thank you for being here. I think I'm going to be put on mute, but I'm just going to sign off and say to these beautiful women that you are our heroes in the industry.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.